morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We want to start with talking about education and making sure that we are taking care of our children, getting them in the right frame of mind and in a great space so that they can do their best in and out of the classroom as we continue to observe Child Month, which is why we have invited a wonderful lady back to share with us, and she's brought along another lady who works with her. You got a glimpse of them when we were starting. So let me say a very special good morning and welcome to the ladies from Life Lessons Academy and Preschool. They are here to share with us today. We have Cheryl Outram, who is the principal of the Academy. Good to have you again with us, Cheryl.
Yes, good being here. Thanks for having me.
And you've brought along Latoya Thomas, who's a tutor
Yes.
with the school. And today we want to take a look at 14 tips for successful learning. Now, I mentioned quite a few things before we got started about how sometimes as parents we drill the children, but we're not necessarily equipped to be able to help them in the right ways. And I think the important thing is to be able to recognize when,
It's not working.
what we're doing isn't working or where children might have challenges. So where do we start? I know that first of all, you've done a great deal in the area of education. And I think oftentimes is necessary for people to hear a little bit about your background so they understand that you're coming from a position of knowledge. So, let's start by sharing some of what you've done. We most certainly can't share all, but some of what you've done because you've worked with the little ones all the way through to seniors.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So just to give a bit about my background, I would say that teaching chose me, right? From as early as I can remember, as a child, I started out with empty chairs. I would roll them off. I would have a pointer, and I would use the wall outside the house
Oh, she was bossy.
as the blackboard. And I would be talking to those chairs and instructing them and, giving them a little tap with the ruler and stuff like that. And I was doing that very early. And then at 12 years old at my Sunday school, when we would go to our Sunday school classes, I recognized that the adults who had babies were being distracted by the little babies. And I saw that as an opportunity to step forward and volunteer to do a Sunday school class for the babies. Let me just keep the babies, so the parents could be in the Sunday school. And I then asked them to just give me a little area, and I would put a rug down and, a blanket and stuff like that. And I asked them to get a playpen. But I would take my own money and just go and get things for the little babies to keep them occupied. During the vacation, all the children who were running around in my neighborhood, I would get them off the street. Our church, Boswell Church of God, was such that the shopkeeper used to keep the church keys. So anybody could go to that shopkeeper, ask for the keys, and go in the church. That's what church used to be, and that's important. And I used to do that and go into church and just take all these children in the church, not knowing any protocol, not knowing anything about the responsibility or anything like that. And I would use my mother's food to make sandwiches and juices and to feed them. And I was teaching them. And then the pastor had a meeting and formalized it as a Vacation Bible School. So I would say teaching chose me. And what led me there was my mother. My mother, though she was not formally educated, she wanted us as her children to have what she didn't have. She had to sacrifice her education so that her other siblings could be supported. So I saw my mother teach herself to read. My mother would have been self-taught to promote herself in her jobs. And she would have pushed me. I remember when I went to Joan Innes Prep School, I went to Wesley Hall, Westbury Primary, and then I passed for Combamere. And I remember being at Combamere, having work to do, and there was nobody in the house who can help me. And my mother would say to me, Jeanette around the corner, or Janet, they are above you. Go to them and ask them to help you. Janet Gorin was the person who I got, like the accounts, when you had to do your SBAs and stuff. I got help from Janet. My mother could not do the work or help, but she would say to me, I could count the passes, and I could count the X's. And if you get more X's than passes, I'm going to cut you. And be vigilant on how that will end.
Yes.
So she was a strict disciplinarian and instilled that we had an education, that we did not waste our time. She would say, I ain't working for you twice.
Yeah, but one thing that, I pick up from that, I mean, there are many lessons that can be learned from what you said, but it's important for parents to know when they need to seek out help for their children, and that's one thing that you spoke about as well. You work as a tutor with the school, with the academy, Latoya. How long have you been with the academy?
I've been a part of the academy when I first met Miss Outram. My daughter, she was about in class 2, and she was having some issues and so on, and there was an ad in the paper, and I called up Miss Outram, and we had a meeting and so on, and from there we clicked, right? And I would go, and there were times that she had to step out, and I would step in, and so from then I always had that love for children, and trying to assist them and so on. So I would say about 7 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the long road to get to the final answer.
I don't think she's ever counted it.
Yeah, but so she took us there to be able to get there. Now let's delve into these tips, because I don't know how you have managed to narrow it to 14. So let's go through these 14 tips that you think are necessary for successful learning, successful being the operative word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tips, I was able to narrow it to 14 because what I did was that I was able to go through the important things that contributed to my own success, and also what I was able to do with students that came into, my environment. And I would say the first thing is to create that environment that is conducive for learning. Many parents sometimes struggle with this. I know they want the best for their children, but they are not necessarily aware of what is required to help a child to be successful in learning. And that's one of the things that my mother did as well. Even though she didn't have a formal education, she made sure that there was a space in the home where we would work. Whether that space was a dining table or whether it was a separate table or whatever, there was a space allocated for that. There was no loud music playing in that space at that same time. Or anything
There were
like
no
that.
distractions.
There were no distractions.
That's what I wanted to bring Miss Thomas in to tell me, because it might mean different things to different people based on our experiences.
Yes.
So what does a space that's conducive to learning mean outside of allocating that space on the dining room table, as you said? So you don't necessarily have to have an entire room, but an area. No distractions going on in the space.
Okay, basically you can do outside things, because people put it like you have to be in a setting like classroom, a quiet space, like you learn so much things on the outdoor, about nature and different, and you take them on adventures and do things outside basically from the norm, right? So for me, like sometimes, like if I see that my daughter, she's having like struggling with something, I would give her a little break. Because a lot of time we like to, push, the work and so on, and I would say, like, come. And in that space, we would do, a little work and so on. And so for me, it's not only about the work, but, showing them that you want to be able to help them, have them to be comfortable as well, and not just like pushing the word at them, because sometimes we as parents can be a little bit harsh on the kids, like want them to do work and not giving them time to talk to them, to ask them what's going on, where you having issues with. So you have to be flexible in different things to help your children as well too.
All right. I see on your list here, you want to add visual stimulation to the home to create curiosity.
Yeah. The visual stimulation is important. Many parents do it at the baby stage. Most persons will buy, the things for the room when that child is in the crib.
ABCs,
the
the 1, 2,
ABCs.
3s,
You will have
yes,
this spinning mobiles and so on. But then after that stage, I don't think that parents recognize how important it is to keep the room or keep the environment visually stimulated.
This is true.
So if you, and there's so much programming that we as parents can do, and even for the mother, for even when the child is in the womb, what that mother experiences, that child hears, that child picks up. So if the child is in the womb and you're reading certain types of books and so on, you're conditioning that child. The way that you live your life as a mother, when you are quiet, the type of music you're listening to, you know, if you're always in a noisy environment, if you're fighting and quarreling, all that the child is picking up. So you're already setting patterns for how that child's brain will work and the kind of stimulus it would respond to. So the visual, when the child comes into the world now, if you want to foster creativity, if you want to foster curiosity, then you have to make the environment as such.
Okay, the next thing is making learning fun. And I think this might be one that would fall directly into your alley. How do you make learning fun?
Having, you can, let me see, making learning fun. Doing things that the children like, that would, let me see, Cheryl?
Yeah, let me help you. Making learning fun. If you're going to make learning fun, you yourself first have to know how to have fun. And what we do in terms of making learning fun is that we create a fun environment. Because a lot of people teach children and teach them from a place of, it's a strict environment. You know, it must be that you can't laugh. If you're laughing, then you're not serious about work and so on. But no, it should be quite the opposite. If a child sees, first of all, that learning is fun, they will want to do it. So one of the early childhood principles is that, children learn from play. So you can teach a mathematical concept and you can use a game to teach that. One of the games that my mother played with me when I was a child was a game called Mastermind. And now you see them as, it's called Code Breaker. But it's a game that's a mathematical game. It's a very analytical game. It's a reasoning game. You have a section for the code and you put these pegs down and they're hidden. The person on the other side has to guess the color of the pegs and the order that they're in. And there are little markers that are placed to tell you if it's the right color, right position, if it's the wrong color, and so on. So as you are, for me as a child, when I was playing that, it was reasoning. So you can make learning fun. A lot of parents punish children if they're not doing what they want.
And that goes into the next thing you said is on the list, rewarding achievements instead of penalizing failure.
Yes. The dog you feed the most grows the fastest. And if you're penalizing failure, that's what the child is going to be focusing on. The child is going to be fearful and afraid of failing and what that response would be. If you want the child to succeed, then feed that. So reward the success. Reward when they do well. And oftentimes when reports come home, parents look at the report and they're looking for the failures. And they spend so much time on that as opposed to talking to the child, these are the areas you've done well in. These are the areas that we can improve. How can we work together to improve these areas? Focus on this, even if it is one subject that child has done well in. Look at the strengths in that area and show that child how they can take that same application, those same strengths, and apply it to the other areas.
And that goes into being passionate about learning yourself, because passion is indeed contagious.
Yes.
Passion is contagious.
Yes.
Many children, unfortunately, don't, especially the children who struggle, they don't see their parents reading. They don't see their parents doing anything academic at all. Many of the children that I encounter don't see their children with books. Don't see their parents, with books.
Yeah. As a parent, Ms. Thomas, how important is it for you, for your daughter?
Yes.
Is it? Yes.
Yes.
To see you engaging in academic things.
For me, it is very important because after meeting Miss Outram is when I say to myself that I am looking at all of her problems and everything, but I am to contributing to, because she's not seeing me. So she's like, she would say, Mom, but I ain't seen you doing this, I didn't see you doing the third. And for me, it's like I start to invest in myself and buy books and read. And also when she went to Dunning River School, and she had projects or she had anything, I would engage her and I would help her. I remember one night she was doing an art project. She was up late, and I remember helping her. And she was like, Mommy, thank you so much, because this gives me the strength now to, to move forward. So I literally help her, and it was like, if it is that she had like SBA or something long to write, I would read to her and like have her thinking. So it's like being a part of that child's, what they're doing, their work and everything, and helping them along, trying to understand where they're at, because a lot of times we see the children struggling, and we are always, pointing the faults, and you could do this and do the third. But what are you doing as a parent?
We always say go do the work, but they see us relaxing or watching TV while they
what are you doing?
Maybe trying to get
right?
it done.
Correct.
So that's very, very important. All right, we're going through them. We're getting there. We might only be able to cover the top 10 today,
Okay.
but that means that you will have to come back. So don't object to that. Create a learning circle with top achievers and invest in extra lessons for challenging areas. Let's tackle those two.
Yeah. Now, children who struggle, I've found over the years, are often with peers who are also struggling. It is important that parents are intentional about who their children hang with, associate with. Oftentimes, you hear teachers say the parents who need to come to the meetings are the ones who don't attend. The classroom setting, usually the child is put, in a place to sit in a particular location in the classroom, and teachers sometimes need that additional support from the parents to say, well, listen, the children who, let's say the ones who have behavioral issues in the class, they usually like to group together, birds of a feather flock together. The parent can get involved by being intentional about creating a circle of children who achieve, children who are doing well. Invite them out for pizza. Invite them over to your home. Do a fun day.
I know for me, a lot of parents would, kind of form groups. So if there were areas that we couldn't work on individually, we could kind of draw on. And even now that my daughter is at secondary school, I believe they have like study groups and so on.
Yes.
And one of them was formed by a parent during COVID, for the children to be able to kind of connect to help each other. So very, very important. And investing in extra lessons. This is an area that a lot of parents struggle with.
Yes.
Because for many of us, some of us feel like, but what's going on in the classroom that we now have to pay extra to be able to get the children to the place where we need them. Your thoughts?
It is important to invest in the extra lessons because children learn differently. That's number one. The classroom setting, it is not ideally set up to cater to that child's individual needs. There are some areas that your child may be strong at, there are other areas they're weaker at. And we as parents have to be open enough to allow that child to be able to say, well, listen, Mom, I need help in this. My own daughter, she's at university now, and there are areas that she struggled with. There are areas that she never did before at Combamere. And she would say to me, Mom, I got to get help for this. And she would go and seek out friends then who did that to help her. But if that isn't working or she feels she's not getting, she would say to me, all right, Mom, I need lessons. Can you afford it? How can we do this? And we would work together to ensure that that support is there. So even as a lessons teacher myself, I invest heavily. Lessons for my daughter when she was at Combamere doing sciences would cost things like $45 an hour for chemistry, physics, biology, and that kind of thing. It was an area that I was strong in as a tutor, but I had to invest in that support for her to get her over that threshold. The beautiful thing about it, as I say to parents, you don't have to be doing that all the time. It's not for the rest of your life. You, as a parent, and we know Bajans, most Barbadians, have committed in their minds that they're going to be buying Chefette for the rest of their lives. You don't have to be paying for those same lessons for the rest of your lives. It's just a short period. If you're getting lessons for common entrance, boom.
It's
By
a
a certain
bridge.
time,
It's
it's a bridge.
to get them
over.
To get them to a certain place. Invest in extra lessons, definitely for challenging areas. definitely one of those things that sometimes as parents we have to make that choice.
You have to put it in
Yes,
there like
you
a
have
courts
to.
bill. Put it in there like, you know,
Yes.
it's a commitment. It's an investment. You have to see it as an investment.
And I know that Miss Thomas, you kind of alluded to this a little earlier, albeit indirectly. Do not restrict learning to only academic books or settings.
Yes.
Look for teachable moments in non-academic activities and spaces. So that means everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. You got to make it, you know, you go somewhere, and for me, one of the things I would challenge my daughter with, if you go somewhere and like the words on the shelves or something like that, I'll let her read it out, because that's actually building her, to like have it, like to be thinking, to be extra. So I would like read this, something on the cereal box, read the ingredients, tell me what's this, So you have to make practically, for me, everything that we do, we would try to make it something learning and enjoyable, not just like basic classroom. And, a lot of times parents don't take time to sit down and talk to their children to see what's bothering them, what they're struggling with. Be like, my daughter, she's at BCC, and I would say, is anything you need help with that mommy can help you with, and as Miss Outram, she's the area of accounts and so on. My daughter's accounts and management. I would say that, there's a safe place somewhere you can, get little pointers from and whatever the case is. But too much time, parents, they would expect the teachers to do everything. We can't do everything, we got to take time to see, because we just see things as parents that the children are lacking in, but we expect that the teachers have magic and can do, but we got to play a part in our children's lives.
I think it's important for us to make connections too.
Yeah.
Listen, we only got to 9.
Yeah, that's right.
But we have time. You're definitely invited to come back and share with
Okay.
us. And I think these are some great tips moving forward. Of course, as we go through, we will continue to recap and share.
Yes.
And it's important for there to be dialogue. Just as you as parents are drawing on your experiences, I think it's important for us to do that. So Cheryl Outram, principal of Life Lessons Academy and Preschool, and Latoya Thomas, who's a tutor with the Academy, sharing with us this morning. We thought we would have been able to get through these 14 tips for successful learning. We managed to get through 9. I'd say that's a pass. 9 of 14 is not bad.
It's true.
And if you want
However, this is not the end. The ladies are going to join us again next week as we continue this discussion. And remember, it's Child Month this month, so let's focus a little bit more on the areas that we can work on to help our children be far more successful at learning. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to